After New York City was devastated by COVID in the spring of 2020, much ink was spilled on the obituary of the Big Apple and many of the world's other cities as well. But New York is coming back. This summer was just about as hot and noisy and filled with great art and culture and food and interesting people as ever. But what have cities learned from the pandemic, and what will keep those obituary writers at bay for many more decades? Richard Florida joins me now. He is the co-founder of the City Lab and a professor at the University of Toronto. Richard, first with New York and San Francisco, have they really come back? I mean, you still do hear that there are, the office buildings are still vacant. There are shops that are vacant. Can we confidently say that cities are back?
I think cities are back. And I think New York in particular, and we can get to San Francisco, is proven to be the most resilient city in the world. You know, this is the third time in the past 2 decades New York City was counted for dead. The first was after the tragic attack on the Twin Towers. The second was in 2008, and then of course now. But I think the pundits got this wrong. They thought people would leave cities, and of course in the short term, as people have done going back to the plagues in Europe, wealthier people and more advantaged people and people with families decamp cities temporarily. But I think the big effect, Fareed, and you hinted at this in the question, is not where people are going to live. I think that's going to look pretty similar, not the same, but similar to how it did pre-pandemic. How people work and where they work is going to change. And I think remote work is a much bigger deal than most people have thought. Now look, the best data we have says remote work is going to go from less than 5% of working days, and this is from Nick Bloom at Stanford and his colleagues, to about 20% of working days. But that's a lot, and I think that will have an effect ultimately on reshaping and remaking these office areas, or what urbanists call central business districts, of major cities.
So explain how that will play out. Describe what you think is going to happen, because if you do end up with more remote work, won't more people say, well, I could live in the suburbs? The commuting 3 times a week is not as bad as commuting 5 times a week. Or what's the hybrid model we're looking at for the future?
Yeah. So remote work seems to have 2 big effects. The first is very similar to the introduction of earlier technologies like the subway or the commuter train or the automobile. Remote work is the latest technology which stretches the boundaries of cities, or what we call metropolitan areas. If the car allowed people to decamp to the suburbs and the exurbs, remote work really allows people to decamp to rural areas outside of great cities like New York or San Francisco. And when you look at the data, some of the fastest growing communities in America are the Hudson Valley towns outside of New York City, and their equivalents outside of Los Angeles or San Francisco. The second big effect is how people work and commute. It's not so much that people don't want to go to the office per se. What we're finding is that suburban office parks close to where workers work and where they can drive to work are getting filled up more quickly. It's the downtown office parks where people have to commute by train or train to subway that are not filling up. But it's not so much fear of the office. It's this reluctance to commute. What I think is likely to happen is that instead of an area where people come to work and plug their laptop into a cubicle, the central business district will gradually be reshaped as a place to convene and socialize.
And you've written a lot about how this kind of transformation has happened in the past. We often forget cities used to be the centers of manufacturing, and then what happened?
Well, if you look at, and I've studied this pretty exhaustively, after the Spanish flu, we had the Roaring 20s, and we can look forward again to the Roaring 2020s. New York City came back blazingly fast and really became a world center for arts and culture. It's when the Greenwich Village as we know it. New York City is an arts and cultural center because housing became more affordable and artists could move there. But the big example I think we can use historically, that you and I both lived through, was the deindustrialization of great cities that happened in the 70s and 80s, when manufacturing decamped for the suburbs, for the Sun Belt, and ultimately, people predicted the death of New York, and that's when President Ford said, New York, drop dead, deal with your fiscal crisis. But what happened was, those older factory buildings proved the perfect spaces for art galleries, artist studios, musical bands to practice, cultural venues. Ultimately, they were reconverted into luxury housing, and now many of even the biggest of those buildings that lie fallow for quite a while have become the incubators and accelerators for the great tech boom in New York City. So it wouldn't surprise me is if our big experiment with remote work is recasting our office towers and office buildings, which are located in the most central and best locations, served by transit and trains. They're the densest parts of our great cities. If they came back as new centers of socializing, connectivity, and actually more residents and more affordable housing.
And when you look globally, it's fair to say that the great trend of urbanization, I mean, we've already crossed, I think 50% of the world now lives in cities. That great trend seems to be continuing and continues to be as strong as ever. And I want to ask you if I'm right in thinking, the fundamental reason why this continues is very simple. You make more money if you live in a city on average.
And that's why in the wake of every pandemic in history, going back to the Middle Ages, from the plagues to cholera to the Spanish flu, young and ambitious people have flocked to cities, even in the wake of pandemics that were far deadlier. Urbanization is a wonderful thing. It is the thing that we have created as human beings. When we cluster together, when we increase density, when we become more diverse, we increase our innovativeness, our creativity, and productivity. It's not that we do this as individuals. We do this in groups and collectivities in urban areas. But there's one thing that people get confused when they talk about urbanization. Most people conceive of urbanization as more and more skyscrapers and more density in the city core. And that's a good deal of the part of urbanization. A part of urbanization is the intensification of land use, more business, more innovation, more people at the city center. The other part of it that we've been going through for more than a century is the extensification of the use of land as we move to the city periphery, as we move to the suburbs and the exurbs and the rural areas, and ultimately, as we see these great mega regions take shape, like the New York, Boston, Washington corridor. Its analogs, Beijing and Shanghai in China, Bangalore and Mumbai in India. These great conurbations that extend out are also part of urbanization, and that's proceeding at a quicker pace.
Richard Florida, pleasure to have you on.